Hi again! Hope you're doing well. Welcome to video number 13. Now, if you're joining this video, I urge you to go back to video number 11 and watch 11 and 12 before you watch this one. There's been a sequential series of things we've been talking about, and today will make a bit more sense if you've done the other two. So, what is it that we're talking about? We're talking about how mindfulness is applicable in day-to-day life. And we are using the diagram that's been outlined in Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn's work, which is called the stress reaction versus stress response diagram. And I'm actually using some artwork to describe this diagram to all of you. And we've been talking about the stress reaction. Now, let's talk about the stress reaction. We said that when we get stressed, sometimes we automatically go to a reaction. That's the fight flight. Most of us go down that automatically. I heard from a father who every time his teenage son gets rude, he automatically goes straight to fight or flight. He can't fight his kid, although it happens. He can't run away from his child because that's kind of irresponsible. So he ends up internalizing a lot of that anger right back into his system. And that creates a lot of dysregulation. So every time we internalize a lot of our stresses, that creates a discomfort, a dysregulation in the system. We talked about when a gazelle gets stressed, when a tiger is running after a gazelle, what does it do? It uses all that energy to fight flight. So it usually runs away or it fights the tiger. We can't do that. When we get stressed, we either have to run, we can't run away, so we have to take all that energy and pump it back into our system. Take another example. When you're driving and someone cuts you off, we automatically, many of us, go into that automatic response, fight, flight. We get angry, we get so frustrated, my God, and we might say things. You could feel what happens in that automatic response. Anger, clenching jaw, stiff neck, curse words, things that are kind of out of our control. They just happen. So we're going to talk about how mindfulness helps with all of that. But before I do that, a lot of my research, when I did my master's in psychoneuroimmunology, that was my master's when I was doing my periodontology degree, it revolved around the difference between acute and chronic stress. Acute stress is okay. We can deal with that. Chronic stress, not okay. How are they different? The hormones that are released in acute stress are different than the ones that are pumping in our system when we have chronic stress. We, as humans, have developed to be able to deal with acute stress, but not chronic. So chronic stress long-term is what leads to a lot of those troubles that you hear. Stress can cause high blood pressure, stress can cause arrhythmia, stress can cause chronic backache and tension and inflammatory conditions and cancer. So my hope is to help us catch that and prevent it. So we're going to go back to our diagram. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to just go back to this picture. And if you remember, external stress comes in, fight or flight is our automatic response. We get a reaction. That's sort of the automatic thing. Our blood pressure goes up, our heart rate goes up, and what happens is we then, take all that anxiety and stress to this reaction and we pump it back into our system. And what happens if I follow this diagram down is over time, this chronic stress, not managed, with no awareness, goes into maladaptive, excuse my writing, coping. So what does that mean? Most of us will take all that chronic stress and we will develop really poor coping skills because we got to do something to deal with all this chronic stress that we have. So what we do is we do things like overwork, hyperarousal. We're always on. We never take a moment because the system has to be able to deal with all that stress that we keep pumping in. So what does it do? It thinks it's going to figure its way out by working more, by doing more, by thinking more. And actually, that hasn't been the answer. If it was the answer, all this wouldn't exist. If that was the answer and we were developed to deal with it, then we would have been fine. But most of us know that the abundant research that supports that chronic stress is destructive, it's profound. So in our next video, what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at the other side. This is purposely blank, and the reason it's blank is you're going to see why mindfulness kind of comes into play here. I'll see you at the next video. Thank you.